Oyiza Adi, and you're watching Nigeria Today. On this episode, we will be discussing happenings inside Africa. Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent in the world. While there are legitimate political and economic headwinds, there are also reasons for optimism in the African continent. A dark mood dominated the discourse around Africa this year during the last Investors' Roundtable in London. There was a sheepish silence when attendees were asked where the good news was to be found. Currency blown out, rampant inflation, rising food and fuel prices, and ongoing security threats, including an increasing number of coups, have severely damped investors' sentiment towards the continent. Africa's heavyweight economy especially have been battling Ethiopia with an ongoing civil war, Nigeria with insecurity, Egypt with negative external stock from Russia-Ukraine conflict, and South Africa with persistent power outage. Yet, there are reasons for optimism. Practically, Kenya and Zambia have been peaceful elections with smooth handover of power. Zambia demonstrated its maturity last year when the authoritarian-leaning former president Edgar Lungu conceded without contestation, and Kenya defied a tendency for electoral violence by this year delivering its most peaceful election since 1992. Meanwhile, ruling party majority have eroded as liberation dividends fade in countries like South Africa, Angola, and Botswana. This is largely due to a younger, impatient electorate unblocked by partisanship and weight of history. Young people are demanding for more effectiveness and accountability from their leaders. They are also more inclined to switch allegiance in the instant of failure, fueling the resurgence of political opposition across Africa. This is creating a more competitive politics where leaders must deliver or depart. There have also been positive developments economically, although Africa is wading through fiscal and balance of payments difficulties. There have been broad uptake of IMF programs among as many as 25 countries, and a funding commitment of more than $16 billion. This suggests a more pragmatic and less ideology policy tilt by incumbent governments. The continent also saw an increase in the share of global foreign direct investment, going from 4.1% in 2020 to 5.2% in 2021, with ventures in so-called green and blue economy accounting for most capital inflow. Finally, international investors continue to pour money into African startup scene, with the big four regional dynamos, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and Egypt, attracting the lion's share of fund. Africa remain an attractive proposition of external capital. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, Europe energy insecurity, and the green energy transition have created a perfect opportunity for Africa to cash in. In North and West Africa, there is talk of resuming and completing major pipeline projects linking the region to Europe, such as the $25 billion Nigeria-Morocco and $13 billion Trans-Sahara gas pipeline. This trend will allow the continent to tackle several issues at once. Africa certainly has its share of problems, but perspective is important and generalization should be avoided. Africa remained underrepresented in global trade, accounting for 2.19% of global exports and 2.85% of global imports in 2020. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area can reverse this trend if it is effectively implemented. The agreement is a crucial step toward boosting regional trade and economic development, but full trading activity is yet to commence due to the ongoing negotiation on various protocols. Whether 2022 will be a year of recovery or a continued crisis management, the construction and the strengthening of Africa's digital economy remains a critical policy priority for the continent. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated digital transformation in many parts of the world, both increasing the utility of internet access and underlining the apparent promise of the digital economics. Intrastate conflict, terrorism, and unconstitutional changes of government are three of the biggest security issues in Africa. These are the ongoing concerns. The trajectory of Africa-China relations for the next decade was set by the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation ministerial meeting held last November, where the Dakar Action Plan and the Focal China-African Vision for 2035 were adopted. This commitment points to strengthening China-Africa cooperation on existing key areas like investment and peace and security, while sharply increasing imports from Africa. 18 African countries are slated to hold elections of one sort or another this year, in what will undoubtedly be measured of the continent's commitment to democratic governance. Some elections to watch keenly include Nigeria, Angola, Kenya, Libya, and Senegal. States such as Chad, Guinea, Mali, and Sudan are still dealing with the aftermath of the coup d'etat that occurred in the last 18 months. This mercy takeover has fueled instability in many African countries. The African Union and Economic Community of West African States are pushing for military leaders in these states to commit to civilian transition by holding peaceful elections this year. That will be all for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nigeria Today. I am Oyiza Adi. Thanks for staying with us.